Okay, folks, good morning. All right. So, this is where we're at right now on this first experiment of doing the bamboo. We've got several things that we need to do this morning. With the palm trees, we got a bunch of palm trees that we need to. They've already been washed, so we need to dry brush them, and then put the fronds on them and stuff like that. And this is the end result on the bamboo so far. I'm starting to see that, you know, what kind of the finished product is going to look like here. And just for relative height, this is 1/72nd scale figures. This is all pre-made stuff that you can, get in bundles off of Amazon. I guess you could get on probably on eBay as well. And I'm going to go a little bit into detail, kind of as a recap, what's gotten us here, why I decided to do it the way I decided to do it, and I think it's too early to say what I would do differently, because there's really only one kind of a disappointment in the whole thing so far. I mean, it might be more disappointments, but anyhow, so there was a video that came out several years ago probably, and I surf the internet all the time, and I get ideas from other people, and hopefully other ideas, and try to just change them to my method of doing things. But this particular channel that I'm subscribed to, and it's a very long named channel. Let me see if I can find it here. He's got some really good ideas, but you get a chance to see how things end up, and it's like, okay, well, I like how that turns out. What exactly did this person do? Let me see if I could find on my subscription. The guy's channel is Davies Super Channel. And I found him several years ago about how he did palm trees, and I liked how he did that. And then I saw that he did a thing on bamboo. And I really liked the way he liked the bamboo. There's one little thing I didn't like about the way he decided to present it, which I don't think would work for me, but he's got a base that's, say, I'm going to round off because I have one of these things. He's got a base that's about this size of bamboo, and he's got a clump in the center. He's got a lot of white space around the outside. I wanted mine to come more to the ending, because I'm going to use bamboo as basically impassable terrain. So as you can see, you can't even see through it. Like you literally could put figures on the other side and you wouldn't be able to see them. So there's no doubt. Hey, can it cross through there? No, you can't cross through there. So it's basically impassable terrain. It would be really impossible to do terrain that was that you're kind of in it, because you'd have to remove things. But anyhow, so I went through. He did a video on how to do bamboo terrain on his channel. It's called Davies Super Channel, and he's a pretty good painter, and I got inspiration from that. So I got this bamboo that comes in big old clumps. I got like 2 packages of it. It was like $15.99. So this is like almost all of the bamboo that I have, and it's about $30. Now, at the end of the day, this is pretty fucking expensive to make this $30 worth. Now, I could probably make it not as dense and get 2 of them out of it, but I'm not going to go back and redo everything. Okay, like I said, it's pretty dense in there, and he had some really good ideas that I probably would not have done on my own. And one of the things is like the interior bamboo pieces. He actually removed half of the bamboo on one side. So just take an X-Acto knife and remove it, or both sides, because the ones in the middle actually don't have any stems, because otherwise you won't be able to stick close enough together. And the plastic, plastic things are going to want to push away. And the next thing you know, you've got a bamboo base here, and it's sticking all the way out, almost a 45-degree angle, because it does not fit in there. So that was really useful from his channel. So this is basically a bunch of bamboo already. This is how it comes. This is the color that it comes in. And he put it on a cork thing, and he hot glue gunned each one. And I'm like, I'm never going to get done doing that. That is a lot of tedious work. Now, I love a hot glue gun. But I decided I wanted to see how they fit together as I was shaving them. So I had this DBA hill I had made out of pink styrofoam. You can see some of it, some of the styrofoam here, and it already had a coating of this the Liquitex or the Vallejo diorama effects, which is what I use to cover everything in when I'm going to go dry brush it. And I had this little hill just sitting here, just pink styrofoam, not the beaded kind, the one that's more together. You get styrofoam, you get a couple different kinds. One of them, and I don't know what the technical term for it, one of them looks like little round pellets all together, and you could almost like pull individual pellets out. It's not that kind. It's the one that's more it's smoother. One looks like cheese, and the other one looks like quinoa. So this is the cheese kind. Anyhow, so I had this little hill that I wasn't doing anything with because I'm not going to play DBA anymore or anything like that. So I'm like, I'll just stick these things in as I go. So they're actually not glued in to the styrofoam. They could be. That just takes a lot more time. As you can see, you could pick up the whole thing and they're in there hard enough. Okay, and if they come out, you just put it back in. And I airbrushed the bottom of this black, and I went about sticking these things in here. Just wanted to make sure that I was on the right track, because I don't want to find out 6 hours down the road of work that I don't like how it's turning out. So I like doing these little checks and balances. Okay, does this look good? Am I on the right track? Because I don't want to follow his exactly. I had to modify it at some point because I didn't want all that white space on the outside. I wanted to go up closer to the end, just for looks wise. So we did that. We put all these bamboos in. The ones towards the outside are actually some of these smaller ones that are pretty wispy. I don't even know if they have a wire in them. So all these bamboos literally they're hard on the inside. So you literally could take this bamboo and do that to it and it stays in place. Okay, they got a wire covered in plastic with the fronds or the leaves on there. Okay, so you got ones in the middle that don't have any leaves on the sides other than at the very top. So I just took an X-Acto knife and removed all those. Okay, and you could watch yesterday's video or the time before that and see me excitingly removing this with an X-Acto knife. Okay, and then the ones on the outside just have them on half of it. So again, they're fitting up flush against it. And some of the ones on the very end, I just left as is. And you can see there's these ones that, they have leaves from all directions. Okay, and they're just stuck into the styrofoam. So I got this styrofoam that if you look at the bottom side of it, it's got all these holes in it. Like, every one of these you put in, the styrofoam becomes weaker and weaker because I'm literally putting holes through it. And it's only, I think at its thickness, it's probably only maybe an inch thick at the very top. It tapers down because it was supposed to be a gentle hill. So I'm done with that yesterday. I'm like, okay, that's pretty good, but I want this to be a little bit more durable. So I cut a piece of 1 mil sheet styrene. I basically drew it a little bit bigger than the styrofoam. Cut it out with a scissor. Believe it or not, a scissor cut through this just fine. It actually didn't do any trimming on it at all. Hot glue gunned it. Again, I was worried about the hot glue gun maybe melting this styrofoam, but just put some spots of hot glue gun, glued the thing down, let it set, 12 and a half seconds, which is about how long the hot glue gun takes to glue. And then I put this same goop, Vallejo Effects, on the outside, tying the styrofoam to this thin. So you've got a base, but it's wafer thin. But dude, this thing is very solid. And I'm going to flip this upside down and some may fall out. We'll see what happens. No. And none of these are glued in. They're just, it's styrofoam. So when or cork, especially cork, when you do things cork like the palm trees, my palm trees aren't even in. It just creates a lot of extra work. Now the palm trees I may actually need to remove. These, we're not going to remove any of them. To move figures through them. You do not go in here. Okay. It's just think of it as like a rock formation. Like you can't do anything with that, right? You got guys that are hiding behind the rock formation. If you want looser bamboo things that people go through, maybe some of these extra ones we can do to make some kind of a more open bamboo area. But this is a solid, you're not going to go in there, you got to blast your way through this if that's even an option. So that's where we're at so far. So what we're going to do is we are going to glue some of these fronds. We're going to cut them down to size and put them here on the outside, okay? But I don't want to do that until the base is black, okay? So we're going to go ahead and pan paint with the primer. There's no point in firing up the airbrush just for this area that is in this light color. And then we're going to let that dry, and then we're going to go to the palm trees, dry brush them. By the time the palm tree stems are dry brushed, this should be dry, and we're going to give this the base color of the dirt, and airbrush the bamboo in a similar way that he did on his show, which I may or may not be happy with the results. Half of me doesn't really want to paint these, but they need some kind of coloration. They're not good enough for me like this. Now, I've seen War Games magazines where they use them just like this. Obviously, they do detail the base. It still looks, there's not enough depth of color. You've got, you could take the shiny away, and there's some hints of yellow on some of these things, very little. It's just not detailed enough for me. So that's just how I roll. So that's what we're going to do, is we're going to unexcitingly paint this in black. Now, I don't really use Vallejo primer anymore because the one-shot primer it seems to be so much better, but I have some of this left over, and there's no reason to not use it. So this is just basically to just give it a black coating. And if you want to see any of the products that I use on this, I have a video that I did, I don't know, a couple months ago, basically doing an unboxing from all my Amazon stuff. So you can see on there, and it's got all the product codes of exactly the stuff that I got. May not be available in your geographical area, but there's probably an equivalent. And they have all the, the make-believe Chinese company names for, Ying Bang Do and Ding Ding Do, the make-believe companies that they're all probably the same company, but they show them as different type of vendors. And we're just gonna put this on here like this. See, there's no point in firing up the airbrush. Now, before I got to the very end, the core of these, I actually airbrushed them black. So there's stems, or there's trunks in the middle of this that the bottom 1.5 inches is black. So you're not going to have something all the way in the shadows that you're going to be able to see as green. And that's it. That's up. See, I'm going to find guys that are like, falling asleep at the wheel here, like that one. If something like that gives you trouble, which is going to be the ones towards the outside, which are the ones that they're sticking on a little bit less of the base of the actual styrofoam because they're closer to the edge. I might glue those in, but the ones in the middle, they're not glued in. It's another step. I don't really cut corners and not do steps. So, but anything that's just like tedious and isn't going to make a difference, I don't mind doing that with. I'll take the opportunity because I generally don't cut steps out. I certainly don't do any painting figures. So I don't know how long this will take to dry. I suspect this will probably be able to be usable in the next hour. So, and that's it. That's all we've done so far. The only drawback of the whole thing so far is the cost of this. It's a bit costly. Now, I have it thick as hell. I could probably thin it down half as much and get 2 of this size for it, but I've already done and undone it several times, and it's time to move forward. I don't think I needed an entire field of bamboo. I just wanted some bamboo in the environment, just to be able to give it the feeling of, hey, this isn't the Pacific, by the way, 'Cause they have bamboo everywhere. They have bamboo here in Florida, but and I'm sure they have bamboo in the Caribbean, but it definitely has that Far East feel when you have that bamboo in here. Now, you're not gonna have any Japanese tanks plowing through this. This is, you best avoid this area, kind of thing. Okay, so that's all we're gonna do. That's all we're doing with that. So now we're gonna let that dry. Rinse this cheap ass brush. Cheap ass brushes bring me peace of mind. If I'm careless with them, who cares? The stuff that I dry brush with them and going over these rough surfaces damages them a lot more than not cleaning them properly, whatever. I could actually get all the paint out with the magic of hand sanitizer if it need to be. Okay, so now we're the next step that we're going to end up doing is letting this dry, and we're going to go to the palm trees. All right, so here's the palm trees where we left off, and again, it's like a work in progress. The first time I did some palm trees, I didn't do them this way. This is the, of course we washed them, but this is the actual palm tree. I'm going to go ahead and remove them all, and we'll glue them back in afterwards. We'll punch them back in afterwards. They've been washed, and they have a wash. Good morning, Mr. Barnes, of Strong Tone. Okay, first time I did is I dry brushed these, then put the Strong Tone on it, then realized that the Strong Tone actually adheres to the plastic. Even though it's been washed, it's still greasy-ish. Not greasy-ish, but it's still slick. This Strong Tone adheres to it better than the dry brush is going to. So I just flipped the order of doing them in. We put this first, then we did the dry brush instead of the other way around, which is what I'd done the first batch with. And they weren't as durable. So what we're going to do is we're going to paint all these bases. We're going to put them in here. After they're all in here and they dry a little bit, we're going to take them outside and we're going to give them a clear coat of acrylic flat. Because we're going to handle them some in putting them on the bases. And in that time, I don't want to undo all the stuff that I've done. Okay? So, all right, we're going to put that there. And we're going to get our colors, which I actually had to watch one of my videos to remember which color I did, because it's been a long time since I've done palm tree trunks. And if I get the wrong color, it's not that big of a deal. I believe it's this one, Barnwood. Yeah, it's Barnwood, and then I believe we mix some white in there to lighten it up a little bit. That's why I have these colors here. These are all the palm tree and the groundwork type color. Okay. The more dry brush layers you're going to put on something, the more critical it is that you pay attention to which colors you used. Because, like, let's say, for instance, if you have something that is only one color, you paint it. It's easy to look at it and go, it's either this one or this one. But when you have multiple layers, so in other words, you have one color that's on top of another one, on top of another one, on top of another one, you'd have to go through that entire process to figure that out. Luckily, this one's just two. So these are definitely grayish type stumps, but at the end of the day, even though they look medium brown right now. So having those two things together kind of works pretty well. And I believe we used... what did we use to hold these? I believe I held them from the top, now that I'm thinking about it. Expanded polystyrene is the one with tiny balls. Extruded is the more dense stuff. It's hard to find the extruded now in stores. You can find you get the expanded one all the time. The expanded one, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan because it doesn't grip as much. You've got airspace. You've got mini airspace in there, so it's not as, dense. All right, let's find a dry brush that we're going to trust. We're going to do kind of a wet dry brush anyways. Overbrush, I think some people call it. Yeah, the extruded is the one that's difficult to find. They used to have it like you'd go to the do-it-yourself place here. That's what you guys call them in Europe. Do-it-yourself warehouse or whatever. Home Depot, Lowe's, that kind of stuff. And they would have sheets and it was 2 inches thick. Can't find that 2 inch thick stuff anymore. And we have tons of the expanded at work. Tons. Well, not tons because it doesn't weigh very much, but you get the point. That is remnants that I basically could have a free-for-all with. I mean, more than I could ever use. Okay. Now let's make sure we don't put too much paint down on it. We do want to see these rings. Now, I could spend a lot more time painting these and they could be a lot more detailed, but at the end of the day, I have to move on, you know? And that's all I'm going to spend on the trunk. Now, by the time I'm done with these trunks, this should be ready to go to the next step. Now, I've saw war game magazines where they actually have they've used this stuff, bamboo this plastic bamboo to make stuff for war games terrain, and they didn't paint it, and it can look better than that. You know, with just a little bit of effort. I have a nasty habit of closing this every single time. Like, I'm full of flying creatures that are going to fly in there or something. Habit. Well, I got on a little later than I wanted to. So I was having breakfast, so I fired up the War Thunder, and I just unlocked the light cruiser Leipzig, and I used it for the first time and beat the living shit out of everybody that was playing. So then I had to play another battle with it. That one didn't go as well. Still did okay. It just didn't go as well. Something to do. A lot of those games, like, I know what to do. It's just a matter of doing it. And I started off doing the big ships, the blue water as they call it, and I hadn't played it in several weeks. So I'm a lot better at switching targets and stuff like that than I used to be. I'm less clunky with it. I played a lot of naval war games. I'm like, the German 5.9 inch gun is pretty much can just trash all the other cruisers, even up to heavy cruisers. It's a pretty nasty weapon. But it's something to do. It keeps me from building 1/700 scale models. We can stay more focused on this stuff. I remember those things. They had this hobby store, and it was in Jacksonville. That was, you'd come in and you would get dehydrated after you went to this place because it had so much standing dust on the shelves. but it was like a garage sale. You had to like hunt to see what they had. But they had a bunch of 700 scale models from Aoshima and Skywave and Tamiya, and who else makes it? I think Hasegawa also does 1/700 scale stuff. But at least at the time, I mean, now they make a lot of other stuff, but at least at the time, everything was like Japanese this and Japanese that and Japanese the other thing. As far as ships on 1/700 scale, just like everything is like German tanks, like even Japanese like model companies. All they make, they make if they made 20 models, 17 or well, maybe not. That might be a little too much, but 13 of the 20 models are German stuff, and the 1/700 scale, ships at the time. Now they have other people that make different stuff, but those companies I just mentioned in the early '90s, they all made primarily Japanese Navy stuff. Which is fine, but you got to have the opponent stuff too. I mean, I've always been like, if I'm gonna do British, I got to do Germans or Italians or something like that. I can't just be like, well, I have British. Who else you got? I got nobody. Like, nah, that's just for comparison and contrast. I'm always doing both sides sort of thing. I saw someone use a roll of cork for road. You might be able to do that with your jungle airstrip. Maybe, but it's going to be a lot, and it's also going to be relatively elevated. So I think I'm just going to try felt. I got a lot of felt and airbrush to felt. I've seen some people that do some really good terrain use felt. Um, and it's going to be kind of haphazard looking, anyways. It's not not like a formal uh, runway. How you doing this morning? The Hoffman's here. The Hoff. Actually, somebody already goes by the name of the Hoff, so we'll just have to call you the man. And if these didn't have that injection line that you have to remove, otherwise it looks like a toy. The detail on these palm trees is superb. It really is. I mean, if it didn't have any flash, if it came flashless, you'd be hard pressed to find better looking palm trees than these. They are pretty good products considering the fact that they're really inexpensive. Getting started in Chinese billboard signs. Aoshima did a lead 1/700 Godzilla set that I've been trying to get my hands on. How tall would a 1/700 scale Godzilla be? I don't know. I imagine he probably varies by. It is a he, isn't it? Varies by size. But I would imagine he'd be like. Let's see. If I had to guess how big Godzilla was, how tall would I make my own Godzilla? 1,000 feet. I'd make him 1,000 feet tall. Anything smaller than that is just like, he needs to be bigger than a heavy cruiser. I take it you didn't see the King Kong Godzilla stuff. I mean, comparing King Kong to Godzilla to me is like, that's like comparing a soapbox derby to a Formula One car. You know, varies by movie. -1 is about 7 centimeters, while larger Godzillas get about 7 to 8 inches. Yeah, I guess the -1, they were in that sub chase or whatever. I like my Godzilla's big. If you're gonna have those kind of creatures, they need to be like the size of what's the name of that creature? The Kraken in the new And the new rendition of the Clash of the Titans, you know, that fucking big. Like, you know, you got people this big, and he's like, you can't get him in the screen here. You know, you don't have to open his mouth much to get a, you know, to eat one of these guys. Anyone know if QRF is still in business? So what I heard is a rumor-wise is that they kept some of their molds and they're still making some stuff. And some of the QRF stuff that they used to do are gone. That's what I heard, but... Godzilla 172nd is... 18 feet tall. Okay, that's pretty fucking big. That's pretty fucking big. That means he's, okay. Let's do the short end of the stick, okay? Where's my calculator? 18 times, oh, hold on a second here. So if he's 16 feet tall, he's 16 times 12. Okay, that's how many inches? Times 6 feet. He's 1152 tall. Yeah, he's 1,000 feet tall. He's as big as the Empire State Building. More or less. Yeah, otherwise, he's impeded by, you know, a city. You know? I mean, if you're like, you know, ten stories tall, you can't work your way through freaking New York. You know? Like, I want to go through that building, and you can't. Like, you know, it's in your way. So, instead, it's just like he's just walking through Legos. Yeah, that reminds me of that whole... What was the name of that episode? There's that one episode that always freaked me out as a kid when I was watching Battle of the Planets. And there was that one creature that ended up being like this huge flying mummy. And then they basically, it attacked an airfield. I've talked about this before. You know, I don't like demonic shit. Like, demonic stuff just creeps me out. Regardless of whether or not you're religious, some visions are just like, I don't need to see. I don't need to see people in like satanic looking goat masks. I don't like stuff like that, right? And when I was a kid in Alabama in 1977, 1978, 1979, there was this show, the first anime show, really the only anime show I've ever watched, called Battle of the Planets, which was a Japanese anime thing from the early 70s that was reformatted for American audiences and not making it as violent. They changed the name of it, added some R2-D2 like sequences in between the cutscenes to, you know, edit it out, and basically made it for American audiences. The main character was voiced by none other than Casey Kasem. I don't remember who voiced some of the other people, but anyways, I think the original name of the Japanese thing is called like Ninja Science Team Gotcha Man or something like that. It's basically 5 teenagers that have these superpowers. They turn themselves into... They have these outfits that look like birds, and they go and they fight these people that are from another galaxy trying to take over the Earth. So they're basically Earth's protectors. And the intergalactic people always have some contraption, a creature or something like that. That is, even though they're from another galaxy, it's always based on, I think it's always based on some creature that they have on Earth. So like a giant mechanical vulture, or a big turtle that can fly and attack cities and stuff like that. They're just, seems like they're always doing like, you know, mass terrorist acts of, you know, just randomly like attacking, you know, innocent people on Earth or whatever. That's basically what it is. I always thought it was cool. You know, I'm 7, 8 years old. And there was this one episode, and it's actually one of the first ones in the series, come to find out. It was Attack of the Space Mummy. So there's this big mummy that's like, I don't know, 300 feet tall or something like that. I don't remember exactly how it is. And it's, it goes and it's attacking some airfield, air base, or whatever. And so the first line of defense, of course, is the 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 ground forces or whatever. So the Japanese um, the Japanese special defense force or whatever has their tanks and their airplanes or whatever, and they go and attack this thing, and of course they don't do anything other than destroy the wrappings on this particular mummy, and and I think, oh, it's done for. Well, it just burns the outside of the mummy. Inside, there's this creature that looks like a big demon. And I remember always being freaked out. I'm 7 years old or whatever. I don't need to see a fucking demon or something like that. But I believe that episode's called The Space Mummy. It's like the third episode ever. Let's see. I bet I can do this. Let's see. Battle of the Planets. But it wasn't 1,000 feet tall. Battle of the Planets, Space Mummy, I believe is what it's called. Yeah, here's... So, it starts off looking like this. And it fly. I believe it flies. It's got like rockets to the feet or whatever. So it's like, send in the mummy, to go trash some city or whatever. And it ends up looking like, well, here's the picture of the face. Yeah, not really liking that as a 7-year-old, Basically, the wrappings they blow the wrappings the hell off of it. And, but I always liked this show. I liked the art it was done in. I always liked it as a kid. But it's definitely been edited. I haven't seen the original one, but hey, that's what there's. So apparently that's from like 1971, 1972, the original show. And they didn't show it until the late 70s in the United States, is my understanding. I looked into it, like, you have fond memories of things as a kid. And when you're a kid, you're not going to be able to find stuff like that in an encyclopedia. You got to wait until the internet was invented to look up things like that, and But it was always some creatures. It'd be like a big octopus or a big, and it's got to get to Earth somehow. So they usually are creatures that fly, I believe. There's probably one that digs underground, like a big mole or something like that. Yeah, octopus, or what's the other thing? A squid. That kind of stuff. I know there's a vulture. There's a flying terrapin. That's turtle for us normal people. But that's the only anime I've come across that's been like, that I've watched. I like this. I like the style that one's done in. Never watched Speed Racer. It wasn't available. Probably would have watched it had it been available. Wasn't available in my area. Not that I really like the theme of that. I mean, it's a big genre called the giant robo genre. Robo. Robo. Yeah, there was if you go into the Japan Pavilion in Epcot, or at least last time I went there, there's this area that has all about Japanese toys from the 1950s and 60s and stuff like that. And they have all these robot type things. And they're classic robot type stuff. They look like Rosie on the Jetsons. They're very square and, made out of that tin stuff, Gundam 0083. I mean, there's like a million different Gundams, isn't there? wouldn't like girls und Panzer. And I don't know why. It seems to me that the Japanese always do stuff like, it's like a missed opportunity. Like, just, if I'm like, I would want to like make cartoons that are like, like how samurai warriors too or something like that. Like, do some of your samurai culture or something like that. Yeah, it could be exaggerated, to over the top for kids, but man, you got like a wealth of like really interesting history that's unique to your country. Like, dude, do that. I don't know. Maybe I just don't get it. But it's like that movie Ron. Everybody was when I was painting my Japanese, my samurai guys. I'd never seen Ron before, and I go and I watch it, and everyone's like, "Oh man, this movie's great." And I'm finishing watching the movie, and I'm like, "Why isn't this a unique Japanese story? Why is it freaking Japanese King Lear? Like, that's just dumb. Like, dude, you guys could. It was sort of a perfect opportunity to talk about the things that are woven into the fabric of your society and what makes you guys different. And instead, you did some Shakespeare shit. You know, Get the hell out of here. There's way too many Gundams. Yeah, I wouldn't know where to begin. Which is the one that is based, the BattleTech is based on? Is that Gundam or is that some other thing? Because BattleTech is ripped off one of those Japanese things. I don't know if that's, what's the other one? Isn't it like a Norcross or something like that? But there's got to be people in Japan that think the same way I do. Like, man, just tell these stories. You don't need to have Western stories and everything for Western people to be. It's this whole attitude of like, when I was doing army, why don't you build a Chinese army? Well, I don't know anything about the Chinese. I'm like, where's your perfect opportunity to learn? Not like, I don't know anything about it. We can't have anything like that. You keep dumbing people down instead of like, it's an opportunity to learn something. Always hating on Ron. It's a missed opportunity. And everybody, I think everybody, if I remember correctly, everybody on each house all wore like the same colors. It's like a missed opportunity. I went there to like, okay, what ideas can I get for painting my samurai? And I walked away with none. Like, no, this is disappointing. And I can't watch the. I've never seen that Seventh Samurai thing because it's black and white, and I know it's great and everything, and but it's black and white, man. Well, I don't want to watch samurai shit in black and white, man. Those colors are awesome. I want to hear your own Eastern stories, man. Not be disenfranchised in their history. But I actually would watch it again. I mean, if I came across it, I'd probably watch it again just to see what I missed. No, it's not terrible. Just like I said, I didn't hate it. It was just like a missed opportunity. It's like, man, this could have been so much better if. You'd be like, hey, we're going to do Romance of the Three Kingdoms, but people aren't going to get it. So we're going to use it, we're going to base it on Marvel. Made some really nice billboards, but I don't know if they're going to go well with this four-story building I'm working on. There's some guys that do some 3D printing stuff. I came across it, and they made like modern. I don't remember what you're doing the billboards for. If you're doing it like for the Godzilla thing or for World War II, but they make modern. Of course, it's in 28 millimeter. I'm sure they could probably print them in other scales, but they make modern like Asian buildings, like a little noodle shop, and I mean it was really cool. Like, oh, this could be really interesting, and it was like really well done. I don't remember who it was, but the noodle shop, I remembered that. I don't know what you do with that, but they got this one restaurant that is a quick serve restaurant right around the corner from where the convention is held in Orlando. And I don't remember what it's called. It has an extremely long name, but I love going there. And it's like a pan Asian place. I don't think that identifies as one particular Asian demographic. I think it's probably more Japanese than any of them, whatever. But it has this extremely long name, and you order with like a big iPad on the thing, which is cool because you get to see like the picture of every item. Because I don't know what these things are called, and but I know what I like when I see it, right? And the food there is amazing. It's not inexpensive, but the place is, and they have Japanese beer. It's a really cool place. It's like something you don't get to eat on a, daily basis. So it's funny. We went there on a whim one time for lunch, and I came back on my own. Like, okay, I was going back there for dinner. And like the next day I had 2 meals there as well. I was like, forget eating anywhere else. I'm eating at this place because I can't have that at home. Had to look at Gundam kits when buying glue at Hobbycraft. Yeah, I think some things would actually be decent games. Like I said, I remember talking about childhood. I remember going to a convention in 2019. It was before the what happened. Mitch and I were walking around at the convention in 2019. 2019. The first time it was being held at I think it was at the new location. Anyways, this guy had put on an entire game of the G.I. Joe game from the 1980s. It didn't use the actual action figures. He like 3D printed 28 millimeter guys, and it was really well painted, and it brought back like nostalgia thing. Same thing. If you did like a Transformers game, I think that would be that would be fun. That'd be fun to play a Transformers game. You'd probably use the real toys and whatever. Well, they're too expensive now. I don't always play things that are historical, but I usually do. They got that one video game. I forget which one it is, and they have several of them, whatever. But they have one that's a particular Transformers video game that the animation is all cell animation. So it looks like you're playing a cartoon from the 1984, and cool because it's like you're playing a cartoon from 1984. Now, the game does not have a lot of depth. It's definitely not open. What do you call it? Open range, not open world. It's definitely not open world, but I like the cell animation type stuff. Every video game that I've ever played that's cell animation I've liked. The first one I ever played was this game. I think it was for the original Xbox. It was when the original Xbox was around. I'm sure they made it for PlayStation, and it probably would look like ass. Like I wouldn't play it now, because I'm not a nostalgic player. Like I don't mind old school stuff, but I don't like anything that has graphics that I had to struggle with way back then and makes it look like my vision's blurry. Like let me put my contacts in, or am I out here without glasses kind of thing. So I don't like any retro type graphics that are I've done time in that. I don't need to do them again. They don't have much depth to them. But anyhow, this particular game that came out that was this assassination type of game where you're playing some guy who supposedly assassinated either the president or somebody famous, and you don't remember any of it. And you go through the game, and it's a shooter, and you go through the game, trying to find out who the hell you are. As best as I remember, I remember renting it. I rented it at a Blockbuster. You could rent a video game, and you could play it for several days. You didn't have to buy it. You didn't spend $40 or $50 buying a game. It's called 13. XIII. And you're this guy who has, if I remember correctly, he has like a tattoo, almost like Hitman, but it was before Hitman. And, you do like there's one of these Kennedy type assassinations, and you don't know anything about you. I never was able to finish the game, but anyway, it's a relatively popular game back in its day, but that was cell animation. That was a fun little thing. And then of course I'm a fan of the Borderlands series, regardless of the storyline being garbage or the characters being, unappealing. But the look of the game it's a funny fucking game. It can be, I like the cell animation. I like the way that a lot of the things are done. So. I even saw some people that were doing Gasland vehicles, and they were painted in the style of Borderlands, and they look really, it looks really cool. Like those extra little like black lines in places that it shouldn't have, but that's just the way it is. Really unique the way they pulled that off. But if I ever go back to playing that, which I don't have a huge interest in doing. Actually, my workload has been so much at work that I don't have a big interest in putting on a game and struggling through the rules to kind of bring. I mean, my interest in it is like nil. It's just way too much work. Like that needs to be for somebody who doesn't have enough on their plate. I'm like, I've been exhausted for months now. When I get down from work, I'm taking definitely the easiest path. Doesn't mean I'm not doing this, because this is fun to do and it's relaxing, but sitting there and trying to learn how to play a game, that just doesn't interest me. Especially if you continuously get it wrong. So, yeah, Borderlands. Gaslands has all kinds of loopholes. I'd say even more loopholes than DBA. And, I'd probably just say the heck with it and play it the way we're going to play it, and that's how we're going to play it. And if you don't like it, well, the author's not paying me to play it a certain way anyways. But I think the author's moved on to greener pastures, right? He's doing that World War II Pacific game, which I heard about it. I heard that might have even been Jeffrey that told me that it was pretty generic. Don played it recently, and same thing. He was like, it's just completely hokey stuff, There's an interesting PS2 game called Ring of Red. It's based on alternative history where Japan was divided between the US and the Soviets, and now each side of Japan are having mech wars in the 1960s. Never heard of it. But if it's a game that is exclusive to a system that I don't have, which I never went PlayStation. You know, when the PlayStation 2, or whichever PlayStation it was, I think it was the 2, and the Xbox were competitors, I went to Blockbuster and I rented them both. Because you could do that. You could literally rent the console and like a game with it or whatever. So you could try it out before you go and fork out the couple $100 to buy the system. And Xbox went out because they had games that appealed more to me. And actually, all the people that I knew at the time that were gaming all had an Xbox also. I think that kind of happened on its own. It wasn't like that was a determining factor. Like I decided on my own, and then everybody just happened to have an Xbox. Not that I play with any of those people anymore, but you know. But you could rent it. You could like, okay, let me try it out. Let me make sure that that it works out. I'm not a Sony hater. As a matter of fact, I was a Sony fan until I actually was my first choice. Sony Walkman, all that kind of stuff. It was a Sony product. That would be my preference to get it. And then until it was like, okay, it costs 20 to 30% more, and it uses proprietary stuff, whether it's a camera or whatever. Like, okay, you can't use the memory that anybody else uses. You got to use the Sony one. And it just got kind of freaking annoying, and I kind of lost favor. I don't hate Sony. It's just learning these Hearts of Iron games is becoming frustrating. Used to be better at learning these games, or just had more patience. Yeah, as you get older, just some things just become not worth it. And it doesn't mean that I want simpler games, but some games are just too complicated. Like, for instance, let's use Total War. The first Total War I ever played was Rome Total War, and it was hokey as crap, and it had all kinds of issues with it. And then the other iterations they made it more complicated and made it better. It wasn't overly complicated. The interface for Total War isn't particularly difficult to deal with. As a general rule, like anything that Blizzard makes, for instance, their interface is very user-friendly. It's easy to figure out what to do on your own without a guide or anything like that. You may not do it the most efficiently the very first time you do it, but you can get on without it. Some of these other companies are just like, make your head hurt. That War Thunder makes your head hurt. Trying to figure out, okay, what can I do this? Can I, that kind of stuff. Okay, this is dry, so we're going to go ahead and give this the treatment, because that's got to dry too. And as I've gotten older, I don't want to play a game that's too simple, but I also don't. I consider myself above average intelligence person. I know that doesn't mean anything. Especially as time goes on. People, I swear, are just getting more dumber. So if something becomes too complicated, I'm definitely like not interested in doing it. I'll give you an example, all right? And I don't know whether we just was distracted by too many things, or, some things shouldn't be as complicated as they are. Somebody gave us a board game that's a pretty popular board game, and I decided to learn how to play it. I read the rules multiple times, read it with multiple people. We still aren't understanding the game until somebody went over and actually taught me face to face. And then it's like, oh, okay, I get it. And it's just because, I don't know, the way some things are written down or explained, you just can't wrap your head around it. And that game was Azul. And it's a great game, but it's like, it has some things are just too abstract for me to understand right on the first fly. I'm not good with that abstract stuff. It doesn't make sense to me sometimes. But I just get to the point where I got to play something. Somebody's got to show me how to play it. So I get like I don't have a bad foundation learning it. Like if you have a bad foundation learning something, you start off on the wrong track. The next thing you know, you're like you have to undo all the wrong stuff that you learned. And if you take Hearts of Iron, for instance, Hearts of Iron, I could have this wrong, but Hearts of Iron, I believe, is relatively strategic, or it is a strategic game. Almost like, isn't it by the same people that made Europa Universalis? Which I played a bit, but it's like, it has a lot of detail on a lot of abstract stuff that I'm not really interested in modeling, and like the tactical detail and like the combat, that's just like overlooked. So like that doesn't play to my what I'm interested in. I'm not interested in playing something like Third Reich. God, there's an ugly game. Rise and Decline in a Third Reich. I don't want to make those decisions. I like making more tactical decisions. But that's me personally, and most people disagree with me. Most people would like making those overreaching, I'm controlling everything kind of thing. And there's just different things. But I'm definitely like, if I pick up some game, I should be able to play it. Maybe not win, but I should be able to play it the first time on the fly. That BattleTech game that was made by Harebrained Studios. I knew how to play that game as soon as I fired that thing up, because I played the old BattleTech, and one of the designers of that game, I understand, is one of the BattleTech people. So literally, it's just like, okay, where's the screen to do this? Like, oh, you have a turn. All right, well, here's heat. We know how to do all that, and in one game session, you figured it out. In 10 game sessions, you're really good at it. Without even reading a manual or something like that. That's what I like. Things that are easy to pick up. And as I've gotten older, I'm like, I'm not interested in having that kind of struggle. I don't want it to be the game too simple. I just don't want it to be really difficult to pick up. It's almost like the people that designed the game didn't do a good job with it. Man, when is this? When does this State of Decay come out, man? I hope they make another one. I don't want games too simple, but I don't want games that are difficult to pick up. Just to do basic stuff. It's like that game that Ben suggested to me playing, or whatever it's called. I think I would really like that game. It's too difficult to pick up. It's too difficult for me to pick it up. I know exactly what to do. It's like, I need to be the guy. Okay, tick that guy, tell those tanks to go in and do an open order and then move them fast, and we're going to go around here in a circle and provide. Like, I know exactly what to do. It's not like it's a tactical problem. I just don't like, okay, what pull down menu is it? Hold on, why is this moving? Oh shit, I zoomed in when I wanted to zoom out. That kind of crap is just annoying. But like actually, doing it, it's like, I already know how to play the game. If the game's realistic, yeah, no problem. No, see that city? We're not going anywhere near that city. Why? Because we've got tanks and no infantry support. That's stupid. That kind of stuff is like, second nature. Just like I was playing tanks the other day with Don and whatchamacallit. We're playing that War Thunder, whatever. And it's incredible when you can actually like physically talk to the people, and the people, and that they're like World War II nuts. Because like we didn't even have a plan. We go down to the city, and yeah, it's a city fight. It happens in tanks. And he turns down one road. I didn't ask him. I'm going on a different road that's like longitudinally the same, so we can cover each other. And you got the map. He engages somebody. I go and make sure everywhere's clear. Do an end around. Get the other guy from the ass. Shoot at him. Crossing field of fires. All that stuff is just like common sense stuff. Ring of Red. All right, I'm gonna have to look it up. Let's see what it looks like. Ring of Red. Ring of Red game. I've never even seen this cover. Gandarian Games. See, what's it look like? It looks interesting. I've never seen this before. No, no. I had never encountered, other than Ben, anybody who had ever played State of Decay ever. I'm like, how can you not play this freaking? It's a freaking great game. I don't even like zombie games. Freaking great game. You know, it's not too ho hum. It's not too intense excitement. It's somewhere in between. You don't feel like you're being rushed. There he is. I rubbed the lamp and you showed up. State of Decay. Yep. You know, I went over many years ago. I went to somebody's house. They were playing this Left 4 Dead. I'm like, that looks interesting. You switch between characters. You're going down. You're quite. You know, I tried playing a demo of it once. I mean, you don't get a moment to squeeze out a fart. You're like constantly like hounded constantly. Well, that must be great for some kid in the basement who has like no responsibilities at work or something like that. But man, stop rushing me. I mean, I don't need to have all the time in the world, but man, stop rushing me. Different people like different kind of games. I was playing some War Thunder yesterday, and we're on this map, and this one guy's in a French fighter, an MS something or another, and he's like at super high altitude, and this map has like all these valleys and stuff like that. And he's way the hell up there. So he comes down, swoops down, kills one guy, goes right back up. Constantly, the entire game, that's all he's doing. And that's his shtick. And he's good at it because he's killing people. I'm like, I don't want to, and Don was telling me there's some people that he plays with, and they only play like one or two vehicles, and that's it. Okay, the game has like 900 vehicles, maybe even more than that. And you only play like three? Yeah, that's how they play. I'm like, that's not me. I mean, you know how I play DBA stuff. Like, I want to play everything. And there might be some things I don't like as much, but I like to play, stuff that's crummy so that you can appreciate the things that are better. I mean, you don't know how good a Ferrari is if all you've driven is a Ferrari. You might be like, you got to drive a clunker to appreciate some things that are, that are better. That's just, that's just the way I think. But we're missing. We've got an empty hole here. And some of these I may have to go back and go, okay, well, you're obviously very obstinate, so we'll have to glue you in. But I think it's going to be, 6 or 7 of them, not 700 of them. All right, that's good at least to get the basic, the gist of the coloration there on the ground. All right, now back to the palm trees. Oh. Now, let me find one of these palm trees and see if I got the coloration about right, or I did a little bit of overbrush with white on it. I did a little bit, but not very much. All right. And I may have, it's likely I added white to it. I don't think I added a creamy color to it because it would probably be in this area, and it would be none of those. None of those are going to take me where I need to go. Had you in the background as a walk the Japanese story samurai historical films called J- oh, Jidaideki, or the Taiga dramas. There are boatloads of them with more Japanese themes than Ron. Well, maybe I need to look for those. That's what I want. That's what I want to watch. I want to watch, the Asian themes, not stuff that I've heard about a bunch of different times. Don't get me wrong. I love being a Westerner, but. I don't want to see samurai guys doing Shakespeare. It's silly. Just like I don't want to see any African American Vikings or African English Vikings or whatever. I saw somebody posted something the other day. It was something about Battle of Hastings, and there was some black dude there in the front lines of one of the guys. I'm like, okay, stop. You want put black people in a thing? That's fine. Let's do their history. Hey, it's probably super interesting. Why don't you do that? I watch it. There's some of those African empires or whatever from the 12 and 1300s that had really cool outfits and stuff and horse armor and okay, I think that's all we need. Yep. I was playing War Thunder the other day with Don. He's like, "Oh, I never played the Japanese planes. They're underpowered." I said, "Well, you're welcome. I'm playing through all the Japanese planes with them, and they're really freaking cool. And I don't know much about them, and that's all the more reason to do them." But I have that attitude. I like to play different stuff. Same thing with Italians. I didn't know shit about Italian planes. I mean, yes, some, but not all of them. Like I didn't know what the hell a Breda 88 was. What is that? Is that like a cannon? It's like on the back of like a truck. Fire the Breda 88 at them. There was a film show on the Dahomey, but they kind of whitewashed them being the slavers. Every country's had slavery. Does it make it right? No. But freaking tell the story as best as you can tell it. You know. And one of the things I really like about about Borderlands, is the nicknames they have for some of these characters. And it's like, and that's one of the big appeals for me doing Gaslands is you could have nicknames for some of these characters like the ones that are on Borderlands. Like, I want to have some redneck guy in a truck called Spitstain. I mean that's great. That's great to have a Spitstain character. He can drive one of those trucks. It's got like tobacco stains or spitting on the outside of the window. He'd be one of those annoying people that drives around with their entire arm outside the cab of the vehicle. You guys have that in Europe, or is that just stupid Americans that do that? Drive around with a person hanging out of the, Their lazy ass hand like dragging outside the outside of the vehicle, waiting to get crushed by something. That didn't used to happen 20 years ago. That's like a modern phenomena of stupidity. I mean, is your hand covered in fish guts and you can't have it inside the cab of your vehicle because of the smell, or you just want to be amputated? I'm the opposite, man. I'm leaning towards the inside. I don't want to get hit by some guy that gets too close. I don't really live in a high traffic area, but that's just stupid Americans here. Or you got dumbasses over there that do that too. Of course, over there would be the other arm, because you guys driving on the wrong side of the road. Yeah, I went there. Out here, you have narrower country roads, so it ain't a grand idea. It's not a good idea anywhere. I don't know how you feel safe. It's like driving around without a seatbelt on. Like, I don't give a shit what the law is. I don't want to wear without a seatbelt. It's fucking dangerous, man. Wow. The Dahomey. Yep. Right next to Togoland. Saw a video from the Philippines. Some guy had his arm hanging out of a bus window and got amputated by a pack. Yeah, it's like unacceptable, man. That's just, I don't know how you would like unclench long enough to do that. Like if I get like picked up by an Uber or something like that, not that it happens very often, but it happened a lot when we were on vacation. I put my seatbelt on. It just happened. I'm not going to say, oh, you don't have to put your seatbelt. I don't care. To say, hey, you can ride this roller coaster. You don't have to put the bar down. Like, no thanks. Some risks I think are just unacceptable. Now, some stuff like, you're going to ride a bicycle in your own neighborhood. Yeah, I'm not wearing a helmet. What about in heavy traffic? I don't ride a bicycle in heavy traffic, period. I mean, in this neighborhood, there's like, if you see one car, you're not going to see a second one. There's usually only one car traveling at one time, Can something happen? Sure. Is it likely to happen? No, I survived the 1970s not wearing a helmet. Gladius. Man, I never finished Gladius. I thought Gladius was a great concept. And I think it'd make a good multiplayer game. Like you come in and you got 6 guys. You run those 3. I run those 3. It switches between them. You get to move around. It's a tactical puzzle. I liked it. There was a lot to like about Gladius. It was historical. Or it was fantasy, but it wasn't complete fantasy. I thought it was a really cool game. I got the guide to it or whatever. I got maybe halfway through. Did you play both sides, or did you only play one? It was like what, that Viking maiden was the main character, and the other one was like a Roman dude. I played them both, but I didn't finish either one of the 2 storylines. I remember encountering somebody that was a mother to deal with. That was a good looking game. Still have it. Still have the original Xbox. Probably never going to get rid of it. What? So somebody give me $5 for it or less? Like, nah. I'll just hold on to it. I really need to fire it up and pull out, which was that naval game that they had for it? Battle Stations Midway, I think is what it was, and compare. I'm like, oh my god, this is so freaking weird. Like I don't remember anything about it other than it being like only for Midway and you had carriers, but I don't remember how they handled it. It'd be fun just to fire up and see what it looks like. Battle Stations Pacific. Sorry, they had a Battle Stations Pacific and a Battle Stations Midway, and one of them was an improvement on the other. I have them both. I just don't remember how the firing was. There had to be some kind of range estimation aspect to it, or I wouldn't have played it. It's not like you just select that and just hit the fire button to continue firing. Like that's why I was never a fan of what was the game? What was that old game? Great Battles of the North Atlantic or Great Battles of World War II or whatever, where you can play like the Bismarck and stuff like that. And you just, hey, have this ship attack that one and then you go have a cup of coffee and come back. It's just like, it's too like far removed from you doing something. Your dad drove for a living. He drove with one arm out the window, right arm tan, left not. I don't know how you, I would never be safe. I mean, did he have it on the windowsill? That's okay. I'm talking about like dangling the whole thing outside of the vehicle, like you're hugging the car the whole time. Like, first of all, your arm's going to be filthy from the road filth, you know? They have the Battle Stations games on Steam. I was just playing one. Really? They do? Those two? Not the Atlantic one, which I play the Atlantic one quite a bit. Man, I don't even know what it looks like. Let's see what it looks like. Probably looks like a melted asshole now. No, looks okay to me. 'I think it's on Steam. Okay. I guess you're fucking right. 2009. I didn't remember you could play both sides. It looks pretty good. Of course, I don't really have a need for this. There's so many games that do this kind of. Man, I just don't remember how the naval combat is. It's got to be cheap as shit, man. Download a demo. All right, well, we know what we're going to do later on today. But I still don't understand the whole the putting out a game that's not finished thing. Because there's like one game that I thought was really cool, and I have it. Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts. It's a beautiful game. You could build your own ships, which I'm not really interested in. Okay. Um, but then when it's time to fight the thing, you just tell them where to shoot, and you actually don't do any of the firing yourself. So it's a little too like far removed from it. And I played it for a bit. I saw somebody that had a demo of it. That watched it. I came across it, saw his video on YouTube. Um, I got it. I got it before it was published. It's got some bugs. I don't know that it's got a ton of bugs on it, but I just don't like the fact that it doesn't have new. I don't like the fact that it doesn't have real ships in there. You can make them. Like I went and made a sidelets or something like that. Like you find all the stats. Okay, has this much armor, has this here, and then take it out or whatever. But you know, I don't mind make believe ships that almost were, but just making something totally from scratch. You have some ridiculous things. You'll have like some Russian cruiser that has like 15 turrets, and a mixture. They have like main arm mixed with a secondary, triples and doubles and quadruples all mixed in. You'll have like, single turrets of large caliber in the center line, and then wing turrets that have quadruple turrets that are like, 8-inch guns. Just crazy shit that just doesn't make any sense. Just like roll a dice kind of thing. But at the end of the day, what doesn't make the game appealing to me is that you just tell it to basically do something. You move the ship wherever you want. Give your fire and maximize that. But you're too like it's too much like I'll come back when I bring a cup of coffee kind of thing. It's very crude graphic. I did look at rule the waves, but again, I don't make it. I don't get to make any decisions. Rule the waves would be great, like to have miniatures and have it run the simulation as far as the ship's heading. I'm okay with the graphics being the way they are. I just there's nothing to do, you know. Um, the battleship combat and battle stations is really arcade, super close range. So it's more arcade than World of Warships. Huh? World of Warships is it's hokey, but the biggest problem I have with World of Warships is this whole like you can't go broadside because it's a disadvantage. That's retarded. You know, that is just I can't get past that. I can't get past that. That is just that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, probably in any game. One game that was a lot of fun, and I can never remember what it was called. What was that game that was the alternative reality? It was a flight game. There was the alternative reality in the 1930s, and they made a miniatures game out of it. Crimson Skies. Crimson Skies was a really cool playing game. And it was hokey. There was like different factions, and there was one that was like the American Indians or whatever had like this Messerschmitt knockoff looking kind of plane or whatever. And all the planes have different ways to attack. And it was, I remember running really smooth. Again, one of those things that the game's really cool, but the storyline is like weird. It's like the Rocketeer meets the Lone Ranger, and I don't know. It was just very straight. But the game was cool. At least at the time, the game was really cool. That's one of those games that I played a lot. Like I don't play it anymore, but I played it a lot. Ground of Aces, a new game is coming out. Might not be up your alley, but I like the concept. Crimson was a really cool game. Yeah, yeah, I thought it was a really neat game. You fly in that canyon, and remember Interstate 76? I know there was another Interstate. I only played Interstate 76. It was the first driving game I ever got. It came free with my wheel back in '99 or whatever. And I think the game came out like '97. And the people didn't have any mouths. Like they would be action sequences and there wouldn't be a mouth. But it had like this cool '70s and it was like car war. I liked it. I mean, I probably wouldn't play it now. It probably looks like a melted asshole. But back in the day, I thought it was pretty cool. Interstate 76. Oh god, this looks like crap. Well, at least it's not blurry. That was a fun game. That was a fun game. I start getting into this time where I've always liked racing games. If you put guns on something, it always makes it better. And and I like the free range aspect. Where you're not really limited by having to be on a race course. There was this game that came out around that time, 98, 99. I got in on it from the very beginning. And it was a game that was put up by Microsoft, and they made two sequels to it. And it was unique because it used supposedly real cars. In other words, cars you can go out and buy if you wanted to. Had the Crimson Skies Clicks game and the PC game. Yeah, I had it on Xbox. I have it on Xbox. Still do. I gotta see what that looks like. It was called Midtown Madness, and it was a car game that you could. What had one of the functions that was basically capture the flag, or capture the gold. There's somewhere on the map this like stack of gold appeared. You drove over it, and as soon as you drove over it, reduced your speed by 20%. And it basically you had to bring it back to your base, and it was like you could play in teams, or you could play everybody for everybody, and it was basically like basically a game of tag, and it was really cool. What was I looking for? Crimson Skies Xbox game. What's this thing look like? Doesn't look too bad. What was that one Xbox game that I have that you're in? It's definitely anime influenced, and you're on these ships, okay? And it's like this alternative history of like you're like these pirates that are on PT boats, and the waves are like out of control. I mean, you're like in these huge freaking waves, launching torpedoes, dropping mines, and everything. And it reminded me of the gameplay that I was doing when I was doing boats in War Thunder. When I first played it a month or so ago, or 2 months ago. Let's see, Xbox game. It might have been an Xbox exclusive. Xbox game. Pirates motorboats. Bloodwake. I believe it was called Bloodwake. It's an Xbox only game. Yeah, okay, let me reverse. I'm not going to play any sound, but... I mean, look at the freaking waves on that, man. It's like you're out of control. Like you're surfing the tsunami. Yeah, look at... You got these Asian cities. It's all Asian. Like you're somewhere in Cambodia. Or like you sampans with guns and shit like that. It was a fun game. Any game that's like fast action like that, and you shoot somebody and you pick up a power up, that's way over the top. But it took you to locales that I'm never gonna visit. There's those little barrier islands there in like Vietnam and shit like that. And sometimes it was like this is all like sunny days, but definitely had different weather patterns and very interesting game. Good morning, Marcus. Where you been? Back to Ground of Aces Kickstarter airfield building and management game. No more management. I do enough of that on a daily basis. Scramble Battle of Britain is a really interesting game. It's a dogfighting game, but with cards. Huh. Yeah, Marcus, what you been hiding? Why are you hiding? So I think what I'm going to do with this is we're going to seal these before I go and paint the coconuts. Because the coconuts are not in a place where by handling them they're going to get unpainted. But yet I don't think I can pull them in and out of here when I go to paint the coconuts and and not scuff them up. So Bloodwake. Yeah, it was like a modern take on those. What were those pirates that they had there in that they had to deal with in the 1500s? Kind of like that, off the coast of China, like Chinese pirates or whatever. There's a name for them. I just can't think of them. Whatever. There's even a DDR army for them. Lost in the jungles of Burma. Almost done with the Chindits and the Kachin. Bless you. I don't remember what it is, but you know which ones I'm talking about. The ones that were a problem for the Ming Dynasty. I don't know how they finally. I don't know how they finally dealt with them. Maybe they were just on the lookout. Maybe they just didn't want to be pirates. They just wanted they wanted stuff handed to them. So they probably gave them riches and bitches, and like, oh, we're happy now. Riches and bitches. Waku. Well, if I get a chance to do any tank gaming, I think it's going to be. I think we're going to do Japanese tanks. You know they suck, and I only have two. Yeah, I think I have a Hago and whatever the hell that other one's called, a Neke or a Neke or something like that. It's cute as hell. Um, Kaney. I have a Kaney. This thing. It's a good looking tank. Aesthetically, what's the premium thing they have? A Chiha. Yep. I gotta use little boy's room. I'll be right back. Yeah, I like the Japanese stuff. That gets me in the mood to do this kind of stuff. You know, like put the European stuff. Enough. Although I ended up doing some kind of mission the other day. It was one of those you got to do daily, which I got to remember. I got to do that again today. Just trying to get better stuff to play with the, so they don't have to play so dumbed down. But there's like this co-op thing you got to do every day, and I figured, oh, let me do it with my Brits. It's basically you have to like defend an airfield, and the bombers come from all directions. You know, and my Brits, my fastest plane I have on a tier 1 is a Gladiator. And between 430 caliber machine guns and the fact that it's the same speed as the bombers I'm trying to intercept, I'm like, man, I'm going nowhere fast. You know, I gotta do this. I gotta do this tomorrow with a faster vehicle. Okay, so that needs to dry before we spray them. This needs to go out and be sprayed. So this goes to Spraylandia. Both of these things. Okay. So what does that leave us to do? We need to grab more of these plants and go ahead and wash them, so they'll be ready to put on those stands. We got lots of this little scrubbage. We got lots of the scrubbage here. Let's pull out some of these plants here. And when it goes pop, you can do the South Park line. Oh my God, you killed Kenny. Oh man, where's my styrofoam? It's a cute little tank. Again, I don't care that it's not the best thing. You can't run around playing friggin' tigers and panthers and all that, you know, super tanks all the time, you know? You appreciate the little crap. I guess I'll have to use this. I had smaller pieces of styrofoam. I don't know where it went to. Yeah, I think I have enough lichen. I got 2 bags of this in this color and one of them in this one. So we'll transfer these to sealable plastic bags to keep some of that moisture in. And they already have some roughage in here, like a couple little sticks and stuff like that. So that's my goal for tomorrow is to actually, I already warned the wife. I said I'm going to go try to put some terrain together over there on the kitchen island. You know, I'll take it down too, but just to kind of see how it all goes together. Now I got to look at this thing and try to keep myself from turning into this some kind of Italian fortification town, you know, with an opening here for. Okay, let's stop talking about that. Even though I'm putting holes in this, but we'll seal those up. All right, what do we use? I think we use the little clampy things for this. We use this one. And you can tell because it's got all this friggin' paint all over it. Wash, which is removable, but all right. Strong tone. We should be able to do it on here. Maybe. You got some lichen before it's dead. Yeah, some of them smell worse than others. They got preservatives in them to keep it from, because the stuff is naturally, it'll dry out. It'll crumble on you. But the biggest difference in the terrain quality is use loose material. Not for everything, but you got to have some loose material in places. Just to kind of get it to look right. Or at least get it to look how I want it to look like. So these palm trees I just painted are the last batch of them. Now there might be one or two floating around here. They're the last batch, then I immediately make excuses how it's not the last batch. Now, there's one or two strange things like, this thing here that came only one of them in there, but I just got to paint the fronds, that kind of stuff. There's maybe 8 or 9 of those oddballs, one-offs kind of things. But it is all the palms. I have a feeling I have enough, or I have enough that I don't feel like I need to go out and buy any more at this point. I'd be more likely to get more bamboo than I would any of those. A stanky lichen. Well, they have that one stuff that the one guy made a video. It might have even been, I'm not sure who it was. It might have been that same guy that did the bamboo. No. It's the guy with the earrings, whatever his name is. Luke. The guy with the earrings. You know who I'm talking about. The guy with the big earrings. And he was making some indestructible trees or something like that. And he used this stuff called seafoam sea something or whatever, and it was like lichen but shaped, and it was really cool stuff. I'm like, man, that would make some really interesting trees. So that might be something I'll try at a later date. And he was like really going like over the top, making it indestructible. And it seemed like he pretty much did it. Might be flammable, but short of that, it's not not going to damage on as many moves. It's also way too complicated, like a multiple step thing. But anyways, the base material looked like the base item looked really interesting. I forget exactly what the hell it's called. I have to watch a video again and find out what it is. But I actually found, and it might be one of those things that's like really prevalent in Europe, not really prevalent here in the States. It was almost like it was a byproduct of seaweed. It was like almost like it was dried seaweed clumps or something like that. But looked like little trees. Yeah. Yeah, the lichen's gotten better. I felt like, back in the 80s, the lichen was all like one color, and now it comes in different colors, and I haven't bought it in a while. But we used to use it as our trees. Now it's like, okay, this is going to be not in lieu of. It's going to be, there's other stuff on there. Yeah, what's that stuff called, man? It looked really good. The end result was like, man, this is pretty stellar. And I don't need terrain to be indestructible. I just need terrain that when you're being careful with it, you don't still fuck it up. Like if you're being careless, yeah, you deserve to have things break on you. But if you're being careful, like, dude, I'm being careful. What the hell? How the hell did this happen? That's the kind of stuff. Yeah, it's like a seaweed stuff, right? It's like basically what it is. I looked it up. I don't remember what it's called now. I looked it up. It's available on Amazon for some sellers. It's not really inexpensive, unfortunately. All this stuff takes time, but the important thing is like, look, You make it, it turns out well. And it might be time consuming, but if you do it right, you don't have to go back and fix it. And the next time you do it, you'll be quicker at it because you're not wondering if you're on the right path, right? Yeah, it's sea foam. Yeah, it's called something like sea foam, but it's not, foam. Yeah. Yeah. That's cool stuff. They don't have it at Hobby Lobby or anything like that. Seems like it's brittle as hell, though. That liquid latex he was using looked really interesting. I'm like, man, where the hell do you buy that? I bet that's expensive. Seems like there's a lot of uses for liquid latex. So I do have some sandbag and emplacements and stands that have like oil drums, like 55-gallon drums of like gasoline and stuff. Those are probably going to be moved up to Q. I have my round dining room table, which is, let's say it's 6 feet across diameter. It's something like that. It might be somewhere between 5 and 6. It's big enough to game on. And you could like put like one force in the middle and, in some position. And, and guys come from, I'd say all corners, but it's round. But try to take the middle. That would also be a good scenario. A bit defensive, but at least you can kind of learn the system. Might be a good one for like, people that are new to it or something like that. In a clearing, like a clearing, there's a depot in a clearing or whatever, and you got Japanese or something like that. They're infiltrating to try to take that position. That might be a good one. Again, I don't have any Japanese painted, but that'll take care of itself. It wouldn't take long to paint 2 squads. Just a matter of doing it and not getting pulled into doing terrain. Let's make the terrain look awesome, and the infantry's going to paint itself. I don't want awesome painted infantry and then like no terrain worth fighting over. Need to have both. Both. Some things I don't mind spending money on. I could probably make my own mixture for this, but this stuff adheres probably better than anything I could come up with. I don't mind making my own mix, like when I was dyeing the bricks and things like that. That's okay. But like on this, I gotta figure out where to store that, and I'm like, it's not that prohibitively expensive. I don't use that much of it. The only thing I don't like about this expanded one is, if I wanted like carved stones in this, which you definitely want to do, you'd want to put like a ring around here, and then I don't know that it was going to react well with that, because you're going to hit a line and it ends up hitting like the edge of one of these little round things, and it's going to make it. I think that may not work. So maybe like, okay, you're going to use this, you're going to make it look like concrete kind of thing. Give it a coating, cut out wherever slits you need to do and give it a coating, and then paint that and make it look like concrete. Desmondo's Shed O' War recently featured a cool jungle scenario with Chindits. Never heard of Desmondo. Desmondo. Sounds like a wizard. That's the great Desmondo. Look out, it's the great Desmondo. I don't know what I want to use those Airfix U.S. infantry for. The guys that are labeled as Marines, I don't think I'm going to use them for Marines. They don't have a Marine uniform or All my Marines are either going to have, what do they call them, fatigue caps or helmets with the liners on them. I don't want any Marines that don't have a painted helmet or a fatigue cap. Uses chain of command. Okay. Are there any good videos of Chain of Command 2 out there yet? What I played was the original one. And like I said, if I hadn't come across this, I'd probably play Chain of Command and modify it. Make the detail of the vehicles and the infantry combat a little bit more to my liking. But I like the concept of you roll to see what your orders are. I think that works. He has great terrain. Okay, well, I need to write that down. I'm not going to write it down now. I'm just going to go back and look at... Oh, yeah, I am. Is the Great Desmondo the same guy? Des Darkin? All right, let's write that down because I have it right here. Oh, here's all the notations I took of all the... guys that I had. Des Darkin... Desmondo, what is it? Best Desmondo Shed o' War. Desmondo Shed of War. Okay, we'll have to check them out. We'll have to check it out, man. Oh, Snapdragon. There you go. Freaking the plastic nursery here. You like his setups and terrain. Okay, we'll definitely check them out. Anybody order that little Thai temple yet that I saw the other day? I got really good self-control, and I don't really want to get sidetracked painting something else at this time. Like, I'm fine, like, doing other shit, playing video games, whatever, but when it comes to painting, let's work on this Pacific stuff. I was bummed out that they didn't use any of these in the Pacific. I was bummed out. You know, so this will be some knocked out thing in Italy or something like that. For shame. I mean, I could make it like there's one there. Nobody would probably know. It is a make-believe island, but, you know, I don't have to... It doesn't need to be completely, you know, make-believe with, you know, things that are, you know, unreasonable. Ultimately, it's just a wreck to go explore. Yeah, they got so they don't have it. They got any of that the second edition? Out. I know last time I checked maybe a couple months ago, they didn't have any videos on it yet. They had like one guy that did a video at his house or whatever, some American that did some video about it. Honestly, the best chain of command videos ones are the ones that have what's his face in it, Richard in them, and then you have the whole setup and you know, I mean, I think it's a relatively slow game ish, but they managed to knock one out in an hour and a half. I mean, that's not a slow game time period. That's really quick. I don't think any of their videos are 2 hours long, and if there's stuff edited in the video, I don't think it's much. I think they pretty much just turn the camera on and let it rip. Can't find the Death Darken channel. Sounds like a poor man's Sith. Look out, Death Darken is watching you. Never mind Desmondo. I got it. Well, now I gotta see, man. The Great Desmondo. Shed of War. Got miniature stuff that's really small. I just don't get. I don't understand how people from the old country, not my old country, your old country, are even remotely interested in the American Civil War. I don't get it. All right, we'll subscribe to his channel, check his stuff out later. Ooh, I like this Battle of the Bulge stuff, even though there's a Churchill there. Like, one of these things not like the other. One of these things ain't the frickin' same. Desmond is one of those extremely Australian names. Is it? Desmond. Not like Simon. Simon is an extremely British name. There's nobody in the United States named Simon that's from here. There's nothing wrong with that name. I'm just making a statement. Simon says named after some guy I like to tell people what to do. He's like, I'm gonna tell you what to do, but you better follow the rules exactly or you're out. This guy's a dick. Let's make a game about him. An extremely Australian name, huh? It's like in the 1700s, they named somebody. They think this kid's not. I think this kid's going to be a career criminal. Let's name him Desmond. And off to the penal colony he went. Maybe that's how Chinese people feel when I'm into Three Kingdoms stuff. Well, the interesting thing is the Three Kingdoms stuff that's in the Koei stuff. They're Japanese, so they have a fetish for the Three Kingdoms stuff, and it's not even their people. Well, the Three Kingdoms stuff is cool. Okay, American Civil War. I mean, maybe if you got maybe if you like lamb chop sideburns, if you have a thing for that, you know. ACW appeals seem to be how well it's documented in English. Well, that's true. And the parody you can justify when playing. Okay. I don't like the period. Or the hairstyles, or the weaponry. Like, or the fact that everybody's American. Like, I know it's kind of exotic for you guys, but, it's just a period of history. It's just neither here nor there. A lot of the appeal here in the United States is because people can trace their, my great daddy's grandfather's uncle's sister's husband, twice removed was in this regiment or whatever. Like, my people are like recent. This is not my country of origin. ACW have better looking uniforms than ancient armor. Well, you happen to think so. I dislike it. It doesn't do anything for me. I mean, really, the only appeal for me to do American Civil War is to put rebel flags and have people like get their panties in a wad. That's like the only opinion, the only reason to do it. I just don't. It's never appealed to me. The first war game group that met at a hobby store, that's what they played. They played this game called Johnny Red, and my dad never liked the American. I mean, again, a lot of you are affected by what your dads do or don't do. You know, my dad did not watch westerns. I didn't watch westerns. My dad did not like the American Civil War. I'm not interested in the American Civil War. I'd rather watch stuff about Polish history. Oh crap! Here we go. Prez, Przeg. Oh, good lord! Hold on, I have a drink. Where's my Polish vodka? Give me some Belvedere. Przeg, Przeg. Not give up. I swear I did a decent job of it last time I tried to pronounce it, but can't. Had a great uncle or something like that go AWOL on the northern side. I don't know about ancients, but I can tell you my favorite period is medievals because there's a thing called heraldry, and there's few things cooler than heraldry. I am a huge fan of heraldry. Also, my heraldry isn't some guy bent over blowing a corn out of his ass. I mean, if it was, I probably didn't like heraldry. Like, oh shit, reminds me of that stupid thing. You know, like Monty Python. And the guy got bent over tooting out of his ass. Or Mitch with his potted plant. I had a guy that I know that we're talking about heraldry, and he's Polish, and he says, "Oh, well, my heraldry is ridiculous." I said, "How can your heraldry be ridiculous?" He's like, "Well, it's like a baker that made the cake wrong and has an arrow through his eye." I'm like, "Bullshit!" And I looked it up. Yep, that's what it is. It's literally like a baker with an arrow through his eye, like a bad baker. Or it might not be through his eye. It might be through like the center of his body. But anyways, the guy looks like he's got a baking hat, and he's been put to death for some reason. He's been executed by arrow. I'm like, ooh. I guess they didn't get first picks. Like, hey, we want some heraldry. All right, you got any eagles left? Nope, they're all spoken for. How about some lions? Nope. Any other predators? Nope. I said, we got a monkey shitting himself and a guy with an arrow through his body. I said, well, I guess I'll go with the guy with the arrow. If I remember correctly, you aid your folks left Spain on Spanish American War search past anybody who's in the Spanish colonial campaign. No, I have an extremely small family, and I don't know anybody. I don't know anybody who's like. I don't. My dad was an only child. My mom was an only child. She passed away when I was 4. and grandparents live with us, but they've been gone for decades. Actually, no grandfathers ever made it out of Cuba. No grandfathers ever made it out of. No grandfathers ever saw Cuba go communist, so they died in the 50s. Had really old living grandmothers, but not very old living grandfathers. Um, and Polish Society, the Green Log and the Naked Guy. That's terrible. Yeah, I yeah I think my parents, I think my ancestors came to Cuba before the Spanish American War, something like that. And I remember my dad saying some relative was a colonel. I don't know why colonel sticks in my mind in the Spanish army. I don't know if it was a Carlos. Carlos is what, 1833, 1840. So that's a bit too early. So I don't really know. All I know is he's in a colonel in the Spanish army. He probably led troops that weren't very good. the Spanish troops at that time period sucked. That's all I know. Um, when I went to Spain recently, and I met that guy in Spain. What kind of a meeting did you have? No, this is one hobby guy, and I spent a long time talking to him about it, and I picked his brain about surnames that are in my family, and there's two surnames that I mentioned on the grandmother's side that he said he'd neither never heard of them or were really uncommon. So that's the kind of stuff that I would want to do the DNA test. I don't give a shit about doing some DNA test and they tell you like, yeah, you're more likely to get uh, a tan in the sun, or you like this guy. Like, okay, I don't give a shit about that. Like, tell me about you know, I don't need you to tell me like what country my ancestors come from. It's pretty fucking obvious. But I think it would take a lot of it would take a lot of digging. I'd have to be retired and be like really motivated. You know, to interest mostly the Second American Civil War. Here we go. Although I'm reading more about the First American Civil War and the Spanish involvement in New Spain. Oh man. And I don't read. I've played what do you call it? AWI stuff before, and I can tell you as an American, if you're playing American Civil War stuff, as a general rule, if you're playing in the South, people tend to want to be the rebels. Because, first of all, there's a tendency for people to want to play the underdog. No, no. There's a tendency for people to want to play the side that didn't win. So they're like, let me do better. And there's also a tendency to play, people have a tendency to play sides that have more elite troops, even if there's less of them. And as a general rule, most of the time, the southern units were better experienced, maybe more poorly equipped, but there's some stuff to them. That's why the Germans and stuff are popular, because people want to play the people that didn't win, and they got all these. I mean, not every unit. I mean, there's lots of German units that sucked and were really crappy, but as a general rule, people like to do stuff like that. You know, but when it comes to American War of Independence, I have not seen a tendency of people to be automatically wanting to be playing the Americans. I've played several American War of Independence games, and I think it's probably an even split to both sides. I don't have a preference. I probably would prefer to play the British only because they're more uniform, but It's a period of that I'm not, like super interested in. It's not my it's not my problem. We're over there in the old world, but um, I play both sides. I've never been one of those people. I'm not. I'll play that side, but I'm not playing the other ones. Like there's conflicts that I'm just not interested in playing, like anything like Vietnam or something like that. I don't want to play either side in Vietnam. Just doesn't interest me. And I got a lot of these little fern things, and I thought for sure I was going to return some of them, but I never did. I don't need to. I'm putting them all to good use. I've said this before. In the United States, there is not this tendency, in my opinion, there's not this tendency to label as the United Kingdom or Britain or whatever as the bad guys. I know they use people with English accents as bad guys all the times in movies, but that's movie stuff. That's another planet. There's not this like angst against the United Kingdom that I've experienced any during my lifetime. What's this whole up in arms thing about England? About having the English? Keep seeing this stuff, and it's probably people just trying to probably stir the pot about putting the English flags up, and the cross of Saint whoever the hell it is, Saint George or whatever. And I really think that they missed the boat on. I'm not a fan of flags that are too complicated, and I'm not a fan of flags that are too simple. But I am flabbergasted by how good the freaking England flag looks for the football team. That thing looks fucking badass. The one with the blue lions, I love that thing. That's what I'd be. It's like, oh, we're changing the flag to this. England, this looks freaking great. But again, I'm a fan of predatory animals on flag. This looks freaking great. That's what you guys should have for the flag of England. That looks amazing. Many Confederates came from Celtic stock. Okay. Oh, I never noticed that it had the Tudor roses on there. Has them both. Yeah, I think I I love lions and shit like that on stuff. Like you can have that, or you can have this red cross. I'm like, that's fucking boring. I mean, the Welsh flag is badass. You know. Actually, the Scottish flag, I'm fine with both iterations of it. I'm fine with the lion, which is actually my Scottish guy has the blue lion on it because that's what they used in that period. And I'm fine with a red and yellow lion, and I'm fine with the St. Andrew's cross, which is really what the Russians should have gone back to. The Russians should have gone back to using that. I think there's the naval jack. There's the Russian naval jack that looks awesome. It's kind of like the Union Jack, but it's back assward with the colors and stuff like that. Not the. I figured, oh, that might be interesting to do if you're doing some kind of like. Oh, I thought it looked better. It needs more colors in it. It's like they ran out of blue ink. Yeah, this thing. That tricolor Russian thing now is just looks out of place. The wrong colors are touching each other. The blue and the red are touching each other, and I'm like, no, I can't do that. That goes against all the rules. Someone put flags on pretty much every lamppost on the village and the next town over's main roads. Well, I personally love the look of the Union Jack. I think it looks amazing. Except I didn't know that it was a you could reverse it, and it's I mean it's because the triangle the corner lines aren't in the middle of the white. They're off more to one side than the other. I'm like, okay, I can't I don't know that with an untrained eye, but I gotta break into the Spitfires and Hurricanes today and start unlocking some of those. I didn't realize it was a Hurricane. It had 12 30 caliber machine guns. Holy smokes! That's a large volume of fire. Just not gonna eat any beans and toast while I'm flying. I guess we're on a tear. Well, we have to do this anyways. I have to get this done. You know, I like all these products. I like some of the product. I like some of these products more than others, which you knew was going to happen. But we're using all of them, and I had not planned on making all this stuff removable. But at this point, it's like, why should I glue it down? It's held in place pretty well without gluing it down. That saves me time. And if I have to move a squad of infantry through there, I can remove the small plants and they can still be in that area and then put them back, kind of thing. You know. What's a lot? What's a lot of lead? Because I don't think I'm going to use these palm areas to represent like actual palm trees. I don't think so. I think that's too. I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but I'm open minded about it. What flags did he put over? Just the England flag, or the Union Jack flag, or something else? I don't pay too much attention to stuff that's on the news because you always have a group of people that aren't happy unless they stir everybody up, right? Most of us just want to go out and do our job. Well, we do our jobs because we have to. Go out and do our jobs, keep a low profile, shut the fuck up, right? And then just some people that is all they're doing interested is like stirring the pot. We have a couple of local controversies that have happened, and local I don't even mean in Florida. I mean like within my area that have got everybody all like up in arms. One of them is like the state of Florida came in. They had all these sidewalks that were all painted rainbow colors for rainbow things, and they decided to spend money to take the rainbow stuff off, and everybody's up in arms. And how come he this and that got people all get wound up out of shape and wanting to comment on that. I don't have an opinion on that stuff. I don't care, right? Like, how about fix the roads first before you're worried about all this sidewalk crap? But anyways, so that's got people all wound up. What is the other thing? We got some school board administrator that basically made fun of a wrestler's death, and everybody like is up in arms about that. A local teacher that is apparently got fired for giving everybody awards. It was a history teacher, gave everybody awards in the classroom for different things, like most likely to succeed, most likely to whatever. And this one guy, most likely to be a dictator, and like everybody's like up in arms about that. Just shit. And then of course everybody has an opinion about it. Like I don't have an opinion about any of it. Like I don't care. Other than it's like you guys need a freaking hobby, man, to be this passionate about something that doesn't even affect you. But there's always people that are always like like I know people that we know that they're very vociferous on the local Facebook pages. I'm like, okay, well we're not going to talk to this person about that because they're in always on the search for hills to die on. Far right groups trying to claim the St. George Cross. Well, there's better things to claim than that. Far right groups should claim something that has an eagle on it or something. It's up my flag. Don't take my crest from me. Far right groups in England, we call those centrists here. Oh man. I really dislike any of those discourses online. I got this one guy that I know. He's Mitch's friend. He's more left than any of us. And he always says, I don't want to talk about religions or politics. So I showed him a lesson. We talked about both at dinner, and we're not getting into I don't have a huge opinion about either one of the two things. And I just prove you can talk to anybody about anything. You can't have a conversation with people that are on a crusade. I don't care what the crusade is. If people are zealots, I just don't want to interact with zealots. Because zealots are going to be like, well, this is the way it is, and it's always this way, and it's never any. I mean, the only thing I'm zealot about is Picasso sucks and communists are bad. Some other things are also bad. Other than that, and in between stuff, well, it depends what you're. But I'm not going to talk about those two things. We talked about both of them. Neither one of them none of us got in a fight about it. But it's just not stuff that I'm willing to die on a hill about. I feel more strongly about driving on the correct side of the road than I do about either one of those two things. And a lot of those people that are like all feel one way, they just think like, oh, well, my guy's in charge, so we must doing it the right way. I said, no, I don't care who's in charge. They're probably doing it the wrong way. They have painted the St. George crosses on many roundabouts. I wouldn't have claimed that flag. I could have done better things. Something a little bit more, you know. It's a little too plain. Must be people that just don't have enough on their plate. Like, I'm tired. I don't want to cause any problems. I got enough problems to get caused to me at work. I want to keep a low profile. Yeah, I said, man, we're getting to the end of these. Nope, I got 30 more to do. Well, I got enough of this stuff. And honestly, it's going pretty quick. You know. Like I got one guy who's a war gamer friend of mine. I see him every couple of months at the war game convention, and I would say he's a pretty mild, non-controversial person. He's a non-aggressive person in real life, but he puts and probably his Facebook friends are. He has a lot of Facebook friends that are very political, and he puts a lot of very political posts on there that I don't really care. It's your page. You can do whatever the hell you want. I don't feel really strongly about any of that stuff. There's some things I feel really strongly about, but, you know. But anyways, and he always puts things that incite half of his people, which are they're very quick to jump back out of him. And I've told him, I said, listen, I don't know why you do that. I mean, unless you like to argue. And he's like, yeah, I like to debate. I said, well, I don't. And I really don't. I don't like to debate. I don't want to get flustered or, spend a lot of time writing or explaining things to people that it's not going to make a difference about. They're gonna feel the way they're gonna feel, and so for me, it's like not worth my time. Oh, well, I enjoy doing that. I said, man, you should spend more time painting. Like, I don't care about people's politics, but there is a couple guys that are friends of his that I've literally had to block because it wasn't just so much that somebody had an opposite opinion of him. It's like this one guy in particular, I do not wish him well. He needs to go to a prison camp because the stuff he's advocating would put him in a prison camp. I had to block him. I don't want any utterance from this person's comments. I don't want to see ever. The pain. It depends how politics affects you. I have a lot of bad emotions about Alaska Summit. I said Alaska, not your damn name. Uppity electronic bitch. Anyhow, okay. Yeah, it doesn't affect me at all because I just don't believe anything I see in the media anymore. And I'm not a skeptic, but it's just been proven time and time again that all they're doing is to get us to, hey, look at this over here. And then they get called out on it that it's not really what you're seeing. And I'm tired of it. I don't pay attention to anybody. It doesn't matter who's in charge. It doesn't matter who's in president. It doesn't matter who's in Congress. It's always the same bullshit. And I'm like, nope. It's the same thing like the weather people. Oh, it's going to be a rainy. There's a big storm coming. Everybody freaks out. And then, oh, never mind. Just joke. It's just too much of, crying wolf. Like, not interested in it. You know, I don't think any of us really know what's going on. I think the people that know what's going on, they don't even know what's going on. Oh, I drank myself under the table. And that's why you can't have any, like, I can't do this recording while, like, the girls are watching TV programming because I literally had, like, a strike against me. I had a copyright strike against me because they were watching in the other room, not even that loud. They were watching some program, and the theme song for the program came on, and YouTube picked it up. And the next thing you know, it like, oh, well, you're playing music you shouldn't be. And I'm like, you can't even hear it in the recording. All these damn listening devices. Putting together first to fight 221 and 223, then the PSC 251 and 251.9 times 2. Are the 251 and the 251.9, are they D's or are they earlier ones that are going to be gray? It feels like a Saturday. And it kind of is. Because I'm not working tomorrow either, so we should have a morning session tomorrow. I mean, for those of you guys that are, either don't have this day off or had that day off or you're retirees or whatever. Living the good life, as I call it. How many more do we got to do? One, two. Let's fuck it. Let's just power through and do them all. I gotta do it anyways. And surprisingly, this does not take a long time to dry. Actually dries pretty quick. Go ice. Oh shit. Yeah, we probably need to stop at 10. Do other stuff. I don't like doing this a long period of time. It makes my day go by too quick. Put holes in all these things right here. Yeah, I never finished putting. I have one first to fight thing. It was a Czech 38. There was a command vehicle. Don't ask me which one it is, but it's got that antenna that goes all the way around it. And the antenna is so finicky that I'm afraid of it breaking. And it is a really high precision model, but it's got like one drawing with like a bunch of different arrows going to it. And it's like, you know, I don't think that I mean, the models may be user friendly. The instructions definitely are not user friendly. I can handle it, but I'm sitting there going, this is a lot for a lot of people. You know, I wish they were less expensive. They're not my first choice, but I'm also not doing Polish 39. If I was doing Poland 39, yeah, I'd buy all their stuff because they make everything. They make everything for the 39 conflict. Hold on one second. You recently went to buy groceries and ended up buying First to Fight kit. Man, I want a grocery store where they have First to Fight kits. All right. 1944 reconnaissance for 251s, others for Russia 4243. Bookstalls and mall centers have it stashed around. Some vehicles just belong in certain colors. And I find it really weird some vehicles that to be in yellow or not in Panzer gray for the Germans. For instance, any Czech 38, which by the way, I always call them Czech 38s. I've never called them PZ 38s. Obviously, it's a Czech vehicle, right? I know the Germans modified it, added another man to the turret, that kind of stuff. I always call them Czech 38s. Czech 38s, Czech 35s. The Czech 38s in the sandy color that they used in 1942, which, hold on a second, which Panzer Division was it that had it? I think it was the 22nd. The one that was built, that got sent to southern Russia, had, I believe, all of its Czech 38s in that sandy color. It just looks so wrong. It's just so awkward to look at. And, same thing. I think that The eight-wheel armored car, the first one, the 231, the 231 8-rad. The 231 8-rad was the only 8-rad armored car until I used to think that the 234 slash the 234 series armored cars, in particular the 234 slash 1, was available at Kursk, and it was not. It was not available until 44 sometime. So that means the 231 8-rad, the original one, well, the original 8-wheel one, would have been in Russia in 1943, painted in as we used to call it, armor dark yellow, and Dunkelgelb. It looks weird. It looks weird to see that particular vehicle in that color scheme. It would be like there's an armor museum here, or that just closed recently in Virginia. It was somebody's private collection, and they had a Panzer IV-H that was in gray, with the Schertzen on it. Schertzen and gray don't go together, you know. But a pity there's not much models and toy sections in supermarkets these days. There's not many toys in supermarkets. Unless you mean something like, you know, like a Target or a Walmart or something like that, which does have groceries. But you can find Matchbox cars in a supermarket. That's about it. That's about all you're going to find. I don't think there's even a toy aisle anymore. They're usually like on end caps or little... Yeah. No, First to Fight, that stuff is... It's probably a lot less inexpensive in Europe. A lot of the jack up in it is just they've gotta figure the shipping in there. You know, it's got to get shipped over to this part of the world. But I like them. I prefer something like PSC, where the barrels are going to be more durable. Not that I'm really careless with them, but you know, the First to Fight stuff is like is a lot like, it's very similar to Dragon in that it has realistically sized things, and you know, those 222s that I have from Dragon, I'm concerned that the barrels are going to be, you know, last a while. What did I make those for the Africa Corps? I don't even remember. That was just the other day. Yeah, I made them both for Africa Corps. Okay. No. Need some for Russian 41 too, but we're not doing Russian front anytime soon. Even though it's like my favorite theater. Which asshole do you want to be? So apparently, Russian aircraft aren't that bad. I had no idea, you know. No idea until I was flying. I mean, the one thing that really surprised me was the rate of fire on some of these machine guns. You think, oh, it's only got 2 machine guns. What? That's nothing. Yeah, well, the rate of fire on some of them is insane. You know, you got 4 machine guns. They fire 700 rounds per minute. Or you got 2 machine guns that fire 1,900 rounds per minute. Which one's really the better? Well, it's better to have 4 because that's 3 that can break down before you don't have any, you know, weapons left. But I had no idea that the Russians had machine guns that fired, you know, 2,000, almost 2,000 rounds a minute. Like, that's insane in World War II. And the one thing that I've noticed is, and I was talking about this to Don the other day, that, and you know, I'm going about this assuming that the game is somewhat realistic, or it has these experiences that these details I'm encountering that I would have not known about had I not like experienced them myself. And that's one of those things that when you have a plane that has its armament mounted in the fuselage, it's a lot easier to aim. You don't have this convergence zone that you got to worry about. You know, you basically have these weapons, you're lined up on them. You as a pilot, your plane is lined up on them. You're basically the aiming point. All you got to do is account for, you know, the drop at a distance. But when you got the convergence zone where you want to maximize the impact of all the bullets in one area, plus you have all that other stuff going on. It's like it adds a whole other dimension to that. Never really thought about it. It's aim. The center line is a lot more. And I mentioned that to him, and he's like, "Yeah, but the one thing is that, and I don't know whether this is true or not, but one thing that he mentioned is that any of the weapons that are mounted in the fuselage or have to be mounted around the engine. So their rate of fire, they're just they restrict the engine, they restrict the size of the weapon that can be, the capability of the weapon. So you've got things that fire slower or different. I said, I hadn't really considered stuff you don't look at until you like experience it. And that's why I like playing these historical things, because you're learning about stuff that there's no way you would have just been able to read it and process all this stuff. We're gonna do these and then we'll stop. We'll leave the leafy plants for later. I'm not a huge fan of those anyways. I'm gonna have a limited use of those. Yeah, there's basically no hobby stores here to speak of here in Florida. And then when you do go to a hobby show, man, the 172nd stuff is the first stuff to go. Like this 172nd armor. I went to a show a couple of months ago in Plant City, and I mean, I got there when the place opened. I was there before the place opened, and I went and I like to look at everything and then go back and go to specific things. Right? It's a matter of an extra 30 minutes. Well, the last time I did it at the last show, they had a model that I didn't pick up that I would have picked up had I known about it. So this time I was like trying to do that walkthrough a lot faster to get to it. They ended up having like a Nashorn I would have picked up. They had a Dragon Nashorn. They were selling it for $13 or whatever. Well, that's like a freaking steal. That's like a third of the price of what it goes for. 172nd. Man, a third, half certainly. Pretty inexpensive. But, I didn't want to maybe they had it for $10 somewhere else. Or maybe they had something I wanted instead of the Nashorn. So anyways, I didn't buy it the first time I saw it. So I kind of learned from that experience, like, all right, we'll do the walkthrough a lot quicker, see who has the 172nd scale stuff and go. And I did it really quick. Went to one place that had 172nd and said, you got anything in the back? I said, what? That's all I have left. I said, what do you mean that's all I have left? Yeah, somebody already just picked up some things. I mean, geez, the place just fucking opened just now. I don't get really upset about it because it's nothing I need. Right? I mean, if I really need something badly, I wouldn't even bother coming to the show. I'd just order it, But that's not the point, But I think I told him, okay, but don't tell me what it was because I don't want to know what I missed out on. But it's just cool rummaging through stuff. I'm not necessarily looking for, the latest and the greatest, best models. I just want ones that are, inexpensive. I don't mind $4, $5, $8 models. That's what I'm looking for. I don't want. Well, you really need to get the ones that are from Vespid to get. Vespid makes like 4 freaking things, and they're all Germans with a side of Germans. That's not very useful for me. Like $30 or whatever. I don't want one of them. I'm looking to take things that people have had in their stash for decades and they're never going to build, and then build something with it. But the problem with those shows is you basically have to get whatever it is that people have bought too many of and never got around to building. So it's like popular things that never got around to it. I was actually on the lookout for the Airfix landing craft. I know it's not very good. You could get them online. They're not out of print, and it's not the best detailed thing. But I figured somebody's got to bought some of those and gonna want to get rid of them for like $4 or $5, right? I don't want to spend $20 for it, including shipping. Like that doesn't say by me. And nobody had any Pacific stuff at all. I was already in the Pacific mode by the time I went to that. I'm like, all right, well, I guess it wasn't for me, you know. But this one guy has a shitload of aircraft, and he's there at every show. He has a bunch of aircraft without decals, and he has a ton of Japanese aircraft. I wasn't ready to do the. Now we'll probably be able to do the aircraft because now we got an airfield we can put them on, even if it's not the main objective. It's just ambiance stuff there. But I've never built a Japanese aircraft ever. Uno mas, is that the last one? Let's see, how many of these leafy plants are there anyways? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 12. We'll leave them for later. Yep. As always, folks, thanks you guys for stopping by, keeping me company. We'll let these things dry, go to the next step, paint the bamboo with airbrush in general areas, and then we'll come in and detail it with rings and stuff like that. All right, folks, thanks for stopping by. We'll see you guys on the next one.